I had cared for an elderly woman with no family who came to us when her husband died. She didn't speak often, but when she did, it was usually just words that made no sense together. I felt so bad for her because ever since she had arrived, so many of the residents in her area that she seemed to enjoy spending time with had passed in such a short time span. She put up a picture of each of them next to her pictures of her husband and several others who were probably family to remember them. I had always just felt so sorry for her, and so I showed her extra attention and we eventually became pretty close. It just seemed so unfair that she had such luck and kept losing people that she cared about. One day, she looked at me and said, plain as day, "Sweetie, I think I'm done now," and handed me a picture. It was a picture of me, and I smiled because it touched my heart that I was that important to her. She passed nearly a week later, and I cried for days. It really hit me hard. She knew it was the end for her, and she said goodbye as best as she could. A little less than 2 years later, I was talking with a colleague and she came up in conversation. My colleague referred to her as "that crazy bitch," which seemed very out of character for her, and it shocked and offended me deeply. I expressed this to her, not so nicely, and she looked at me with this shocked look and said, "Oh, dear, do you not know?" and then explained something to me that I hadn't known. As it turned out, it came out sometime after she had passed that she had killed her husband by poisoning him, and that there was an investigation because it appeared that she had a ritual of befriending someone, obtaining a picture of them, and hiding the picture until she could kill them, usually by poisoning, and then displaying the picture as a sort of trophy. It was suspected that this may have been the reason for the spike in mortality rate during her stay, and the considerable number of photos in her collection. Last I heard, the old family photos weren't any relation to her, and the police were trying to ID the individuals and compare them to several cold cases. CNA here. I've been working night shifts at hospitals for about 7 years now, and I have quite a few stories. I went into work one night and Jen, one of the nurses, told me and my coworker Jay the creepiest thing happened a few hours earlier. A patient had passed abruptly in one of the rooms. The room was cleaned and was quickly occupied by another patient who had coded, was pronounced dead but was resuscitated. Soon after being admitted to his room, he started to complain to the nurse. He kept saying things like, "I can't be in here. This man won't stop looking at me. He's really worried about his dog. His dog doesn't know that he's dead." She had assumed he was just seeing things and said, "Oh yeah, well, what does he look like?" He described the deceased patient perfectly. I could see the chills running down her spine as she was telling us her story. Turns out, the man did have a dog as well. The new admit was moved to another room. Jay started talking about how he doesn't believe in ghosts, how they aren't real, how he wants to see it, and that tonight he's going to provoke it so it can show itself. 3 a.m. rolls around and all three of us are at the nursing station. Jay starts playing YouTube videos of various puppy sounds. Soon after, 2 lift team guys come up and we forget what we're doing and start another conversation. Suddenly, we all hear it, except for Jay. A dog bark in the same room, loudly, clear as ever. The lift team guys say, "Does someone have a dog in here?" Jen and I simultaneously shit ourselves. I have other stories, but that one really got to me. Shadow men are real, and I've seen one firsthand. And spirits love playing with elevators. I'm a 20-year-old male. I'm not a huge guy. I stand 5'7", 160 pounds. For this story, I will be using abbreviations of the areas around where I live. Those who have been near Philly will probably be able to understand them, but honestly, I don't give a fuck. I live in a town I'll call T-Dale, Pennsylvania, close to a town I'll call Seaville, which some in our area consider the equivalent to Philly due to violence, drugs, etc. I work security in a hospital within this town. where my job puts me in the psych ward, morgue, and ER. Yeah, I know it's kind of all over the place, but this is important. I'm going to tell 2 stories. Before I continue, I'm warning you that these will, indeed, be very graphic and disturbing. This is your only disclaimer. The things I've done here stuck with me, and there isn't a day that goes by that I don't think about some of these occurrences. It's a less affluent hospital. So much so that the hospital kind of abuses our security contract and has us do some wild things that we probably shouldn't be doing. Obviously, with nearby Seaville, we get some very lower class people coming by and fucking shit up with their drugs. The first story I'll be telling deals with the morgue. As usual, I received a call from the ICU that someone had recently passed away, so I went to bag the body. The man who passed was an older man, probably around late 50s to mid 60s. I didn't ask how he died because, let's face it, it's not my problem or concern. So I slapped on my gloves and got him into the body bag. Before I zipped the bag, I stopped and I stared at him. I felt odd and uncomfortable. I've dealt with far more fucked up bodies, missing limbs or exposed organs, but this one had no apparent injuries, and yet I was so uncomfortable. Anyway, I snapped out of my haze, zipped him up for the funeral home, and dragged his ass down to the morgue. I followed procedures and placed him in the freezer. Keep in mind that I brought his body down on a cart and only moved his body from the bed to the cart, so there wasn't a whole lot of movement. Anyway, I placed him in the freezer and waited for the funeral home to arrive. When they did, I brought them to the freezer where I would transfer the body into their possession. It's actually more of a hassle than it is a complex job. Just find the bag, have them sign, and pick them up to put them on the cart. So I pull my new friend out of the freezer for the funeral home, and immediately things start to become weird. The funeral home claimed I had the wrong body, and I'm just like, what the fuck? There was no way it was the wrong body. There were only 2 bodies in the freezer, the other body being a 16-year-old who had been hit by a fucking train, so there was no way that I messed this up. After some minor accusations, the funeral home realized it was the right body. I mean, come on, it's kind of hard not to. There's a tag on the outside of the bag with their name on it, which the man looked at for a solid minute before even agreeing. But then it happened. One man unzipped the bag and I was forced to take a step back. The man I had just placed in the morgue was contorted, with his arm behind his back, laying on his right side and his left arm strewn in front of him. And his mouth, it was frozen in a scream with his eyes bulging. My mind raced. How could this be? I laid him in the bag on his back with his arms at his side. And before you say someone else touched the body or moved it, you're wrong. I was the only officer on duty and I had the only keys to the freezer, so I was the only one with access. I would never be disrespectful or unprofessional. And to adjust his mouth or eyes, how could his body possibly have been fucking contorted? The funeral manager began to rant about how it was possible I could be such a scumbag to leave the body in such a manner. I was silent. There was nothing I could say. They re-zipped the body and left angrily. I was still in shock. I mean, I don't know how he died, but I know he didn't die screaming. To this day, I'm still baffled about the whole thing. Another story I have is on my second day when I was working in the psych ward and got a call from my manager. He told me to report down to the ER right away. I was nervous because I thought, shit, did I already fuck my job up? I walk on down to the ER and meet up with my manager, who was in the presence of 2 other guards. He walks up to me and tells me the scenario, and apparently a family came in to see their 4-year-old daughter in the ER. The mother, father, and grandparents were waiting for the doctor. The only problem was, they didn't realize the 4-year-old girl was already dead. The story goes, the girl was sitting on the back of her father's tractor and he had put it in reverse. Somehow, the girl slipped and the father unfortunately didn't know until it was too late. Her skull was crushed by the tractor wheel and she most likely died almost instantly. We were there to make sure the family didn't freak out too badly, and what ensued I will never forget and be tortured by for the rest of my life. When the doctor finally appeared and gave the grave news, I had to sit and listen to the family scream, screech, cry, and curse for 2 hours. Their yells of pain are burned into my brain, and I still hear it sometimes. As the new guy, they sent me to do the next part with a former Marine. We walked to the room with the deceased and stared at what was in front of us. The corpse of a little girl lay before us on a table. Her skull was caved in, and it looked as if you baked ziti with skull fragments, brains, and other stuff. The prior Marine and I froze and stood there for a minute. I honestly don't give a fuck about people, and dead bodies don't faze me. But this being the first child I had to deal with, it really got to me. Slowly, with my shaking gloved hands, I moved the girl into the bag. Before I finished zipping the bag, I looked once more into the cavern that used to be capable of forming an innocent child's smile. No longer would it be able to. That image, along with the family's screams, will stick with me forever. I've always been depressed, but honestly, this job gave me a new feeling of respect for life. I've done a lot more fucked up things, but this is all I want to talk about for now. Maybe I'll send in more soon. I don't know, you can call bullshit, whatever. I needed to tell someone, and it took me a while to finally be comfortable with what's happened to me. I'm writing this on Christmas. I hope you all had a merry holiday, and hopefully I don't have to see you soon. Hey everyone, if you were looking for more creepy type hospital stories rather than unsettling or disturbing, I did a video a while back on hospital horror stories, but it's more focused on scary encounters with people within the hospitals in case you didn't get what you wanted with this video. That'll be in the description and on screen at the end of this video. I debated even including the last story in this one, but the person who sent in the last 2 stories included proof of where they worked and stuff like that. I know a lot of you request more of the EMT stories, and it kinda reminded me of those, so I figured I'd include it. Anyways, I was thinking of doing a giant subscriber stories video that included a ton of different topics. So if you've ever had a scary experience, whether it be a camping story, a home invasion, a stalker story, anything, please send it into corpsehusbandstories@gmail.com. I will also have my email in the description. Please make sure you make the subject of the email whatever kind of story it is. If you just title the subject of the email "Scary Story" and nothing else, it'll make it a lot harder for me to find. So that's about it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you didn't, I recommend the other hospital stories video I did. Stay safe and have an awesome day.